Now that the new dungeon has been out for a few days, I wanted to put together some tips for those of you chasing the solo flawless Spire of the Watcher. Instead of making a 20-minute step-by-step guide, I wanted to make a quick video covering essential tips and tricks to make your runs significantly easier. I'm Above, and if you enjoyed today's video, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. Now, let's get into it. Diving into my recommended subclasses, there are several viable options on each character, and if you have something that you're comfortable with, by all means use it. I narrowed down my top 5 choices based on what makes this solo difficult, that being ad clear and damage checks on the 2 bosses. I found that Well of Radiance Warlock with Starfire Protocol, Gathering Storm Hunter with Assassin's Cowl, Sunbreaker Titan with Lordly Splendor or Syntheseps, and Thundercrash Titan with Heart of Inmost Light are the most valuable options. The 5th spot is tied between the Void 3.0 subclasses, as they all offer survivability with Devour and a free debuff during DPS. As for loadouts, everyone has different playstyles, so I'm gonna keep it pretty high level. I personally found Trinity Ghoul and Witherhoard to be 2 of the most valuable weapons in this dungeon, as they counter some of the most annoying parts of this solo, those being ad density and supplicants that can end your run in mere seconds. I also found Linears extremely strong against Akulus, the first Harpy boss, while Rockets and Sleeper Simulant are top tier for DPS on Percy's, the final Wyvern boss. As I noted earlier, use what you're comfortable with, but this is what I found to be very strong during my solo flawless runs. For the first tip, we're heading to the opening encounter. If you're sick of dying to supplicants, this will make your lives so much easier. Supplicants spawn each time you complete a circuit, so to avoid spawning additional supplicants, simply connect each circuit up to the final node without completing it. Then once you're ready, complete all of the circuits at the same time. With this approach, you avoid spawning any additional supplicants and immediately advance to the next encounter. This means your main focus becomes the Cyclopses that spawn throughout the encounter. Start by killing all 4 Cyclopses, and then each time you start a circuit, keep an eye out for the new Cyclops that spawns in. Clearing these as you go makes this encounter far less hectic, especially if you're struggling to stay alive. Tip number 2 brings us to the Ascent, where we have to climb the tower by activating several circuits. The main tip here is to avoid killing Hydras, because when they die, supplicants will spawn in and can easily catch you off guard. You guys can probably see a theme here. One of the most annoying parts of this dungeon is actually completely under your control. This is the first time I'll say this. Do not be greedy. Rotate away when you need to, look for openings to connect the nodes, and you'll be at the top of the tower in no time. The 3rd tip brings us to our first boss, Akulus the Siren's Current. Trinity Ghoul is absolutely incredible here. It's great for long distance AoE ad clear, which allows you to clean up the groups of harpies for stress-free damage phases. Start by activating all of the nodes in the center of the arena. This will instantly give you the max 45-second timer of Arctrition, which allows you to pick a side, complete it, then rotate clockwise around the outside of the arena. This breaks line of sight on the boss and the Minotaurs, which allows you to connect the nodes at a very casual pace. The only thing to be wary of are the outer platforms, because the boss can sometimes bug out and teleport to these locations, which can kill you and send you back to orbit. Though this is rare, to avoid this, activate these nodes as quickly as possible, then rotate under the platforms to shoot the next set of nodes. Tip number 4 will help you deal with the Harpy Eyes. The faster you break these, the longer your DPS phase will be. Fusions work great for breaking several eyes at once, but I found that using Trinity Ghoul for ad clear, then hot swapping to Teraba was by far the easiest strategy. Once you're on the final node, you can find a safe spot to swap your weapon and take one last lap around the arena to top up on ammo, clear ads, and charge your Ravenous Beast. Activate the last node, then proc Ravenous Beast as the boss enters his eyes animation. This will break the eyes in just seconds, which grants you way more time for DPS. Make sure to walk forward during the damage phase and unscope your weapon from time to time to keep an eye out for those holes in the ground. As the damage phase comes to a close, you can either dodge to break the blowback momentum, use a barricade to block it if you're on Titan, or jump down to avoid the blowback altogether. When in a safe spot, swap back to Trinity Ghoul, then rinse and repeat. Tip number 5 brings us to the descent. And there are a ton of ways to die to physics here, so let's avoid them. If you're on the floor after activating the nodes, it can pull you backwards and physics you. I recommend staying on the catwalks to activate the nodes before jumping down. Now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the dungeon, the fans. These are identical to the fans in 0 Hour, where there are slits in the wall that you can jump into, allowing you to safely descend downward. Instead of trying to time your jumps perfectly between the blades, you can use these instead. For the first set of fans, simply jump into the pocket that has no metal blocking it, and as you're falling, turn around and find solid ground to land on. You'll rinse and repeat this process for the second set of fans, but these ones are even easier, because when you jump down into the pockets on the wall, you'll fall directly onto solid ground each time. Easy peasy. When you reach the bottom, clear the room, super the Hydra in the middle, then start activating the nodes. This one is by far the hardest to find, so if you activate this first, you can use the outer nodes to complete the circuit, which will get you out of this room quickly. Tip number 6 brings us to Percy's, the final boss, and this one is all about managing the boss room. Do not be greedy. This encounter is all about movement. You'll almost never be sitting still. The beginning of the boss fight is actually one of the sketchiest parts, because the side doors are closed when the fight begins. These will open after about 20 seconds and can be used as a safe room. You can use this area to kill the Hydras, chip down Minotaurs, and clear the groups of supplicants that approach the door. You can even kite the boss back and forth, which will give you openings to grab Arctrician and complete the circuits. You want to make sure to use this room after each damage phase and clear any leftover adds. Nothing will spawn in here until the red wire circuit has been completed to open the door, which means this is your safe haven during the boss fight. The 7th and final tip relates to the damage phase. The boss attack is extremely lethal, and unless you have a restoration-based subclass, you'll want to be careful when doing damage. To avoid the boss blasting you, start by the door to use your super and begin your damage rotation, then back up to the platforms on either side of you to line of sight the boss. You can use this to dip in and out of cover and avoid the boss's attacks altogether. As I noted earlier, Rockets and Sleeper Simulant are insanely good picks here. These bosses do have pretty gnarly health pools though, so just remember, it's an endurance fight. Don't greed mechanics. String together some consistent damage phases, play your life, and the solo flawless Spire of the Watcher will be a GG. If you enjoyed today's video, a like and subscription would be greatly appreciated. You can also catch me live on Twitch over at twitch.tv/above, where I stream Destiny content almost daily. Anyways, guys, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.